came up with a new show idea, Libby. And it's going to be a show entitled Loan Shark Tank, where we have like 5 loan sharks on one side, and the people come in, these bust out degenerate gamblers come in, and they try to negotiate better terms on some kind of a loan and also secure the loan, even though their reputations may not match up with what would be considered spot on credit. And then you got some guy coming in there going, hey, listen, I'm looking for $600 at 2 points a week. I'm telling you, I'm going to pay you back. I know my reputation is not necessarily exemplary. And, then the loan sharks start picking them apart. It's like, well, what are you talking about, Johnny? 2 points a week. That's laughable. It's 7 points a week just to talk to me. What do you think?
I think it would be classic.
And you get the music going. The guy comes out. He's clearly in need of the money. And they get that dun, 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 dun. And you got some guy that looks like Vito. He's Mr. Wonderful's chair, and Mr. Wonderful's chair, and he's just looking at the guy like, what a watermelon.
I was going to say you have to have at least one of the people or behind them, enforcers, at least either behind them or off to the side.
With that face, that the enforcer always has. Like, let me at him. How about a little taste of pain?
The beginning of every episode, it's a guy that fucking didn't pay last week, so they have to send a message. Shit beat out of him, yeah. He's in some trash can peeling himself out. Man, here's last week's deadbeat. What do you think? Did I get some money to produce this thing? Is somebody going to steal the idea? I was afraid to unveil it here on the show because I thought it was brilliant. I think it's funny.
Loan Shark Tank.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Hey, why do people always have to throw the flowers in the punch on a party, Lubie? Why? I ask you that early. I mean, you mentioned Loan Shark Tank to people. Some people get a laugh. They say, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And then others say, and they look you right in the eye when they say this. Do you have friends that are overwhelmingly negative? You tend to be that way more so than maybe the people around you. Although in general, you're actually a very positive guy.
I try.
You're a believer. You are.
No, you never know. The only way it doesn't work out is if you stop.
Exactly right. You just got to keep on pushing, as we've been doing for quite a while now, and you keep asking yourself, "What the fuck am I doing?" But yeah, I mean, when the guy looks you right in the eye, you lay something out there that you think, "Oh, here's a show idea. What do you think about this?" Or maybe you used to get this when we were in the office with Grace Blazer, and we suggest, why don't we bring a live band into the studio? And she would look at us, and I mean, in her eyes, you could read the idea. And often it's verbalized. How long before that gets really old? And you're thinking, I just brought it up. What are you talking about? What are you going to punch me right in the face for? Huh? What are you, Roberto Duran? You're going to duck my jab, and then boom, the big right hand. There it is, the big right hand. Lays it right on him. But anyway, good to be with you guys. There is, I've come to this conclusion after doing this Bury Your Bookie for not even a week yet, Lubie. And we had a brilliant start with 2 winning picks.
Yes, sir.
I did go out on the limb yesterday and take Billy Horschel to win the FedEx St. Jude Classic, which is underway now. They're heading into round 2, a pivotal round 2 for me, Lubie. Pivotal. Because I got a pivot out of 18th place.
Exactly.
Now, the guy's only 4 shots off the lead, so it wasn't a pathetic pick. I mean, and yet there were many golfers that annihilated par yesterday. They brought this course to its proverbial knees. As you had virtually everybody, all of the big names are in the mix. The leader is a guy named Chris Kirk, who had a hole-in-one. He aced a 205-yard par 3, which went a long way towards contributing to his being 6 under so far for the tournament through 1 round. But you could only achieve an 18th place tie. Can you imagine, Lubie, being 4 shots back?
That's crazy.
Scheffler's in the mix. Schauffele's in the mix. All the other guys. Rory's 2 under also. Morikawa. So Matsuyama's up there, man. That guy, when he's lurking early in the tournament, isn't it a scary thing? Hideki Matsuyama.
Okay.
Who, oddly, before he came to the tournament, somebody either picked his pocket or robbed him at gunpoint, or, I don't know the exact details of the story, but the story is that somebody robbed Matsuyama of his wallet, which I don't know. I mean, if he was imagine if he was carrying his first check from the Live Tour and they found a way to cash it. Some check cashing store.
Oh God.
You go to Vito's check cashing and you say, "Hey, can you possibly cash this for $200 million?" Check cashing stores were doing what? They were gouging you for like 6% of the
Yeah,
check.
the percent. Yeah, the percent's
Did you
nuts.
ever cash a check at a check cashing store in your life?
Oh no, I've always had a bank account. You just go to
That
a
should
bank.
be the first question that you ask any member of the degenerate brethren.
No check cashing.
Let me write that down. Okay? I'm going to use that on Bury Your Bookie.
There you go.
Have you cashed a check at a check cashing store?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I won't remember that 15 minutes from now. But yeah, wouldn't that be a test? I have a couple of times. I forget what kind of Fugazi check I was cashing, but I couldn't really vouch for its credibility, and I figured why cash it at my bank where they're going to get back at me? These guys, they may send somebody after you. What do they do if the check doesn't fly at a check cashing store? Do they send out some muscle? How exactly does that work? Do you know?
They don't know right away. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, if it bounces later, I don't know. That's interesting.
I would imagine that would be an easy target for people that were passing bad checks. In fact, I think I had a friend, may he rest in peace, who may have done that to this place. Like a sandwich shop was also a check cashing store. Now, would you expect the food to be good? This one is a good question for Mayor. Would you expect the food to be good at a deli / check cashing store?
See, I wouldn't, but
It was great.
it was. The food was really good.
It was like well above any standard that you could set, not only for that type of place, but for any place for that matter.
Really?
I mean, it was right up there. Yeah. I mean, they made some dynamite sandwiches and had some really good food, possibly because they were making so much money by taking 6% of some poor schmuck who didn't have a bank account.
I don't think I've ever been to a check cashing place that had food. That's interesting. It's usually like
This place, I think it still exists. I don't know if they're still cashing checks because the location that I used to cash checks at was on Commercial Boulevard. There was a place called Moe's, man. I mean, they were legit. It wasn't like they were doing anything illegal. They just they happened to be a check cashing store. Anyway, getting off of that, we're hoping to cash a couple of checks. I mean, this public handicapping. Would you say this is true, Lubie? That if you're going to be a public handicapper, giving out picks, and/or especially if you're selling picks, but if you're just giving them out, I guess it's not as sinister if you're just giving out your selections and the people can watch your show and say, "Fucking Defo, man, I'm going against him every time."
Honestly,
Which would be a valuable commodity to put out there and proliferate, into the public because, yeah, I mean, they would have a surefire winner or at least a high percentage of winning because they know you're a fucking loser.
yes. If you're
and then you can't pick your nose.
you can at least go the other way.
Am I late to the party on this one, Lubie? I'm going to give out Paul Skeens and the Pirates tonight at minus 125.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Paul Skeens. He lost his last start.
Oh, he lost.
You could, I mean, if you're doing all kinds of theoretics, you could say, well, geez, he was a college pitcher. They sort of, they had him in the minors very briefly. Now he's come to the pros. They didn't really overwhelmingly coddle the guy. He is, in the big leagues in his first year. He has gone, I believe, I don't know if he's gone the distance in a game, but he's gone into the 8th inning.
Yeah.
And, early on, they were yanking him after like 90 pitches or whatever. Throws it up there. Of his 90 pitches, 45 of them are 100 miles an hour plus. Holy fucking Nolan Ryan. Who is this kid?
Holy shit.
And then it's not like, Ryan had a phenomenal breaking ball. People forget about that with Nolan Ryan. Anybody a Nolan Ryan fan out there?
I love Nolan Ryan.
You did? Yeah. I mean, he had a great curveball, Louie. He really did.
Old, but even old Nolan Ryan was fun when he was with the Rangers. He was so fun.
Yeah. No, I got to see him a lot when he was with I saw him originally when he was with the Mets.
Oh, the Mets.
And then, but he was wild then. He had no control. And so the Mets kind of threw in the towel on him thinking, who is this guy, man? I mean, he was all over the place. But then he reeled it in, and when he was with the Angels, and I was covering the Angels a significant number of games every year, their home games, and he had a great breaking ball, and on top of that, he was like striking out 400 fucking guys a season. It was amazing.
Yeah,
and that was when guys made contact.
Yes, that was then.
That was then when everybody wasn't swinging for the fences.
Exactly.
I mean, you had your power hitters, but even they were more than willing to make contact with a couple of strikes on them, which is where are the fundamentals, Lubie? What's happened?
Oh, good. Well, I mean, we've talked about this all week in baseball. I mean, there's just not much there. I don't know. I literally forget that the season's still ongoing, especially with preseason here in college football starting next week.
You've already abandoned baseball.
I forgot baseball.
You'll come back though in the postseason, though.
No, that's the thing is I haven't even watched a baseball postseason in the last 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to at least watch the playoffs and then the World Series for sure. I haven't watched the last, like literally, I forgot who was in last year. I forgot the Rangers won. I remember the Diamondbacks because we kept talking about taking the Diamondbacks 50-1, the beginning of the playoffs, and they actually did find their way all the way to the goddamn World Series. So, but I forgot that the Rangers were their opponent and won. Like I couldn't. Someone told me that the other day. I was like, oh fuck, the Rangers. I'm like, what the hell? Like I couldn't tell you anyone on the Rangers. Like
I just watched them and I couldn't tell you anyone on the Rangers.
I've just mailed it in. Like I don't even watch that. Like the World Series. I don't know. It's just I feel bad.
Some guy named Garcia had a big hit in the first inning last night. I was watching a little of that game because my guest handicapper on Bury Your Bookie yesterday, we did incur our first loss as he gave out the Rangers over the Twins. But it's agony. And I would say this, that if you are going to be a public handicapper, you need to have no conscience whatsoever if you're going to survive, because the pressure is overwhelming to deliver, right? I mean, and then that leads to another degenerate etiquette question as we're here on a Degenerate Friday. And that is, are you obligated to pass along information if you get a tip horse at the track? Are you obligated to pass that along? Or should you, if you have any kind of conscience at all, automatically zip it and figure that this horse was going to lose by double-digit lengths with certainty?
That's my problem. Is I wouldn't want to bring someone down.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, that's part of it.
For you losing money.
But are you? I mean, if the horse wins, do you feel like, geez, I should have let people know about this?
Oh no.
And then you always have to consider the source, which is almost always routinely an eliminator, no matter what. Even your most trusted of friends. The worst touts at the track are what? Jockeys and trainers, aren't they? Oh, yeah, I like my horse today. Yeah, go fuck yourself, Joe.
I hope you like Jesus. You'd be bad if you didn't like your horse.
Only in America, my friend. Anyway, there's a tremendous wait. So I got Billy Horschel in a pivotal second round today. This would be the stuff of which legends are made. I mean, imagine if you open up your first week, you give out 2 winning baseball games and a 50-1 shot to win a golf tournament. Lubie. What are we talking about here? We're talking about TikTok fame. We're talking about millions of views for the next show.
That'd be amazing.
And then it would take people a while to realize you had no idea what you were talking about. Skeens, are we late to the party? That's the question of the day, Lubie. Skeens.
Is it the play to pick the Pirates to win? Like, what do you?
Just pick the Pirates to win. You're laying 125 to win 100 at home, Pittsburgh Pirates.
I presume.
And you got Paul Skeens on the hill against the Mariners. Mariners have been playing well.
Mariners are good.
Mariners are in a dogfight there in the American League West. Going against the Pirates, who are fighting for their dignity at this point, Louis.
He's coming off is it his first loss, or he's coming off a loss? Like
coming off a loss. He only gave up 4 runs, though. It wasn't like he got trounced.
I expect him to rebound. I mean,
no, he has 2 losses. 2 losses.
It sucks to go by the starting pitchers these days because you don't know what they're going to give you length of game wise, but he is one of those guys
averaging 5 1/3.
He'll go 7, like he'll go 6, 7. I don't know him he's completing games, but he'll go 6, 7. So at least
I don't think they would burn him out at this stage.
I don't know. I would lean with coming off a loss. I would say sure. Go back with
at home, coming back, going for rookie of the year. There's competition there. I forget the name of the guy who's just lighting it up. There you go. He's lighting it up so much. I have no idea who the fuck he is. I just read the name, but that's only because I can't remember anybody's name anymore.
Yeah.
I was at this meeting yesterday with these social media people, and if you asked me to name I knew the one person for a while. So, a very lovely young lady. So you're not going to forget her name. And then what? The other 2 guys I was introduced to, real gentlemen, real sharp. But if you quiz me on their names, I couldn't give them to you. Say one guy was named Chris. That's tragic, isn't it, Lubie? No, I was never good at that, right? I mean, you know that about me, where we would be introduced to a couple of people, and 5 seconds later, I'd be asking you, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, like, that's the problem. Is I'm that way too. Like everyone will remember my name, and I'm like,
because Lubie's an easy name to remember. Yeah,
Mike. I mean, my whole life, people look. I'm memorable, good or bad. I am not. There's no one like me. So people remember who I am. I tend to be in my own world half the time. So, like, people will come up to me all the time, like, and yeah, now with the radio, fine, but even before radio, and they would always come up and like, hey, I'm like, yeah. Like, and even if I remember,
yes, you're hoping somebody says their name.
I never remember a name. Like, I'm so bad remembering people's names.
Terrible.
I feel bad, even if I know you. And I'm look, the guy at Gulfstream who takes care of us every week is fucking great. I love the guy.
I don't know the guy's name.
I can't remember his fucking name. I've gotten his name out a bunch of times.
And he's got a name tag on too, which is really pathetic.
I don't know.
We don't know.
Mayo's good at that. Mayo remembers people's names. I give him credit because I suck at remembering names. Like, and I like you, and I'm not even trying to be a jerk about it. And I'm younger. Yeah, I don't remember names. I'm just
okay. All right. I never did. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I wasn't paying attention or what. But I like to. I mean, you like to address people by name. I mean, it's always good. And if you can remember, somebody's name from years ago, and you run into them, and they happen to be, in this case, a fan of yours or whatever from the many years that you've been yapping your brains out here and making no sense. Yep. Yeah, it's always nice. I mean, the person you want to make the person feel good. Just like, I mean, so that gets back to the question about the tip horse, Lubie, which I have a tip horse in the second race at Colonial Downs that Mustang got last night while at Fishtails. Okay. Serving some guy who's a regular at the bar who is a fan of ours and happens to be, you find this surprising, a degenerate horse player.
Shocker.
Now, when do you ever get a tip in the second race at Colonial Downs? Colonial Downs runs very infrequently. I think a few weeks a year at best, like maybe 3. Okay. Not sure if they go like 2 different times. It's kind of like Keeneland, I guess, where they have 2 short meets. That may be the case. Okay. But anyway, they're running now, and Colonial Downs is known for featuring huge fields of wide open betting opportunities where any fucking thing can happen.
Okay.
So if you're like a roulette type of player,
yeah,
and you want to go for the Billy Horschel 50-1 shot because there's no sex appeal to you and saying, you know who I have? I have Scheffler and Schauffele.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
And the first things you're thinking are, so go fuck yourself.
Pig. Thank you. Everyone has that.
You're screaming, shank it on every shot. If you could get to the event yourself, you would be screaming in the middle of Schauffele's backswing. Shank it, you fuckface.
I screw you, talking asshole.
Chuck eating prick, right? I'm telling you, he's got Scheffler and Schauffele. Get the fuck out of here.
Who cares? When you win, it's like losing.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I don't know. Look, I play like that's interesting because it is off the
tip horse, second race, Colonial.
So it's like you sort of feel the need to take it. I just don't know if I would share it. Because
are you doing a disservice to your friends by sharing a tip horse?
You win, yeah, obviously, but when you lose, you'll have done them a favor.
Which happens how many times out of how many, Lubie? I mean,
like you get them a lot wrong. More than right. Whenever you tell me about this,
I'd say tip horses probably go. I mean, do they go 1 for 10?
I don't know, but I know it's not 5 for 10.
No, it isn't. Far from it. I can count, probably on, the 10 fingers, the number of tip horses I've had that actually delivered.
You get them every day.
That's in 60 years of going to the track, Lubie.
Exactly. Again, every day someone has some fucking tip for you. Exactly.
Every day, a zillion people have tips for you. All right. So, but this is a kind of an obscure one where
it's out there.
It's a 2-year-old race at Colonial Downs. Somebody could have some insight into it. I mean, how deeply do you think these things through? Do we have to come up with stats like that stupid baseball number, extraterrestrial bases?
Yeah. Papo or whatever.
When contact is, made below the handle, I mean, how many qualifiers do you need to figure out that this guy sucks? Well, you know what? If you look at this, guy's hitting 091. He's like makes Dal Maxwell look like Mickey Mantle, and you're trying to find a qualifier where somehow the guy looks good. That's crazy shit.
Look, I think you should do something with it because if it wins, you'll be pissed that you didn't do something with it. I wouldn't tell it. I don't know. That seems very. I mean, Andy's listening. If anyone would understand the plight of a degenerate, It's this gentleman.
Is there an obligation to mention it, even under the parenthetical of listen? I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall.
And that's the thing is, once you mention it, don't they now feel the need to put something on it? Like I don't know how it.
Or just root against you.
Andy wants.
No, your friends wouldn't be rooting against you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if they don't bet on it, so tell them. You can say it here. Andy wants to know. I would not want to.
Andy wants to know the name of the horse.
I don't. Yeah, on the chat he said you got to tell me. You
Dancing Magic, the 3-ball in a second race Colonial. Post time today. I guess they get started late, like with a little Twilight theme going.
Okay.
So I mean, Rod Serling may have to intervene here to make this horse a winner. That'd
be great. There's a ton of
Dancing Magic with the distinguished Mike Campbell in the irons.
Oh, I've never even heard that name.
I never heard of him either. In fact, I thought the name of the Mustang gets this horse, and the guy told her Mike Campbell, second race at Colonial. So I'm cross-checking this information to see.
Trainer.
I had no idea. I thought that was the name of the horse. Wouldn't you think that?
Yeah, you guys mentioned a lot of jockeys. I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I know when I hear them. Never heard you say that name ever for a jockey. Ever.
I never heard of Mike Campbell. I didn't know he was a jockey. If you told me that he was a harness driver, I would say, okay, maybe he's the son of like John Campbell. That could be. But yeah, I never heard of him. I'm sure he's been around. I probably should have heard of this guy. I guess he's going to be riding this horse to victory, Dancing Magic, the 3-ball in a second race at Colonial Downs. There you have it, people.
Andy's crossed it with some other fucking theory he came up with his ass. So he's now talked himself into it being a lock. Not only it's a tip that you got, now it's a lock. This Dancing Magic.
There's no such thing. Pivotal day 2 here for Billy Horschel and company.
That's the one I'm focused.
Tied for 18th. If your pick to win comes in 18th, it's not a disgrace.
No, it's the amount of shots. I don't care what the number is.
I mean, if he misses the cut, that's
Look, if there's a ton of people under 3 under, and you're at 1 under.
So a bunch of guys are. I guess 3 under has a group of guys that are all there tied for 12th.
Yeah. Okay. So
he's 1 shot out of 12th, and 4 shots out of the lead. Now you got to figure what Chris Kirk. How many tournaments has Chris Kirk won? I would have no idea. I'm going to say maybe he's won one. I don't know. Maybe a couple.
I don't know that name even a little.
Chris Kirk.
So, I mean,
yeah.
But these tournaments, you see that happen. So
there have been a lot of first time winners. There were earlier in the year, I think. That seemed to be a thing that was happening. That gentleman that was on with me yesterday on Bury Your Bookie actually gave out that guy Grayerson, who had to be like 1,000 to 1. Who choked in the final few holes of the previous tournament, last week's event, which was the Wyndham, I believe. Okay. And the guy had a 4-shot lead with about 6 holes to play, and he gets a quadruple bogey.
Oh, Jesus.
On a par 4, man. I mean, just an embarrassment.
Holy shit.
And then he sort of bounced out of that. He still wasn't out of it because he had such a substantial lead, and then he double bogeys in another hole like 2 holes later. And you're like, holy Jean Van Velde, what the fuck happened to this guy?
You're like Norman.
All right, the professor's going to join us. Going to have a big board, I would imagine, too. Is he going to dabble into the college football season? Some
he can. I mean, it
preseason predictions.
It starts next weekend. It starts.
What's that?
Week 0 is next weekend. Florida State's the, I guess, quote unquote marquee game.
Yeah,
because they're a top 10 team that is on the schedule. The rest of the week 0 card is horrendous, but there are multiple games going to be played. And you know him, he zeroes on everything. So yeah, you can definitely talk about that. And he's been watching NFL preseason the way I haven't. So maybe he has a preseason play.
Big Al would have buried the public last night. He has a thing. I mean, I don't know. Big Al doesn't hate Boston like the professor does, but he has taken a vicious stance and an adamant stance that the Patriots are the worst thing that ever sniffed an NFL field this year. So he doesn't see them. He's going to play the under on 4.5 wins as his lock of the century. And then he told me that, and he had just hit some 6-component parlay on a $35 bet for $1,000. So you're thinking, all right, the guy's rolling. And he had the Patriots last night laying 3 points as his lock of the century against the Philadelphia Eagles. Final score, I believe the Eagles ended up winning it by a point, like 14-13 or something like that. So, I mean, another barn burner of a preseason game, which I was thinking, Lubie, man, you evolve through time, and things that at one time were very important to you seem like they were absolutely absurd ideas. How about those 4-hour pregame shows I used to do in
Oh,
August outside of the Dolphins Stadium,
you
now
were
Hard
outside
Rock
when you
Stadium?
did that? Oh,
Outside, schwitzing through your pants, Lubie,
I know they paid well, so it's whatever, but still.
for a preseason game that even though it
Oh,
was being played at night, the sun is setting in the west there, and it's aimed right in your face.
oh my God.
And
Preseason
you're
game.
out there at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lubie,
Oh my God. They would have you do that for preseason.
for a preseason game.
Holy shit.
When I had that incident on IOD where I was like fired for a week, that was over me skipping a preseason game pregame show to do a nationally televised boxing event instead.
Look, I know we've always been football crazy in
Yeah.
the 80s, 90s. It was even worse. I get it because we didn't have, so I don't know, whatever. And the Dolphins were good. The Canes were good. Fine. So maybe that lifted it up. High school football down here is a big deal. Fine. I get all of that, but that's still a lot. Like there was never a point when I was like, yeah, this preseason game, let me listen on the radio. Like, oh,
Let me
shit, I
see
gotta
what Jimmy
listen.
Cephalo has to say. Yeah.
What's going on in the second quarter of this second preseason game? I don't want to miss it. Let me turn it on. Like, I don't think I've ever heard any preseason on the radio. Ever.
Sarni, who I'm assuming has some Patriot blood flowing through his system
Yeah,
with
he's
his ties to Boston.
Yeah.
Says Drake May. Drake May, I saw a little Drake May. He actually
Of course it was
did.
better.
He looked pretty decent.
I think he's fine. He was drafted top 5 for a reason.
What happened to those reports that he was just blowing a gasket in
He sucks.
in training camp? That he was terrible.
He sucked last week. He was dreadful.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't see.
He's a rookie. What do you? Whatever. He's gonna be. They have no offensive line. They have no skill position talent. Fucking Brady would look like shit in that team. Like, what do you? Rodgers, pick a quarterback. Mahomes would look like shit on. I mean,
he threw a pinpoint accurate pass on a bomb down the field to one of his receivers who was, tightly covered, but the ball dropped right in the only spot where he could make the catch. He failed to come up with it. It wasn't like, you could look at the guy and say, "Geez, that's pathetic." But yeah, I mean, he didn't look half bad. But Sonny thinks
I think he'll be
he was
fine. If you're expecting anything of him now, okay.
Yeah. Let's bring on a guy who probably would be more than happy to refute any of that. And that would be
He
the
was
professor.
6 of 11 for 47 yards. Like that's how low the bar is for Drake May. 6 of 11 for 47 yards shows a lot of promise.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's ugliness. If that was a regular season game, you would wonder if this guy wasn't going to be on a practice squad next week. If that. They just let him go. How are you, Professor? How's everything going? Lubie's got a technical note here.
Adjust my thing. Yeah.
He just sounds far away. I mean, I can hear.
Yeah,
it.
hold on.
Sometimes
why am I
yeah.
not seeing that on my audio? Hold on there. Hold 1 second, guys.
It's fine.
I did send you the link, by the way. A little transfer of information here, as we've lost him on camera as well.
Great.
Now he's blocking everything. Why don't we throw it to our break
We'll
here?
go to a break anyway, so that.
Yeah, we were heading in that direction anyway. So, all right. So you were obligated to give out a tip horse. I gave it out.
You weren't obligated. Andy just is a sick degenerate, so he wanted to know. He wants to find more ways.
See, I as far fetched as it is, I mean, thinking about the percentages, Lubie. If I've hit 10 tip horses lifetime that I can remember, and I don't even know if I can remember 10.
Oh, that'd be high.
I can remember a few, but that's in 60 years of playing the horses. Not quite 60 years, like 55 plus years of
I don't
playing the
know.
horses.
14 years I've known you. I know you've gotten tip horses you didn't play that did hit.
Yes.
Rare for me to think of you playing a tip horse and it hitting. I'm trying to remember any time.
I do remember one that bailed us out of a jam when Luca Panici had given out a horse that won at like 35-1. And at the time, we were in some financial gray areas with Eddie and Vito. And I had given the horse to Eddie.
Oh, the Eddie one, yeah.
That was I think he was just about to dispatch Vito to the house. And Luca hangs on the fence by a nose. I mean, like the smallest of margins. And pays like $75 or something.
Oh.
Triggers huge exotics, which we all had, and Eddie. I ended up getting a little bit of a free pass there. All of a sudden, it went from go kill that asshole to how about this kid, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Gives out a $75 horse. So that was good. I mean, it's been fortuitous. I remember getting a tip on a $100 horse at Gulfstream Park one day, and I was sitting in the box with this guy who was connected, who just happened to like me. It wasn't like we were, involved in anything. And he says, "Who do you like in a race?" And I gave him the tip horse, and he laughed at me. Yeah, it's 50-1. Like, and I got this from a couple of guys that they have a theory, and the name of the horse I still remember. It was called Skip's World. Odd that later on in life I would have a dog named Skippy, who I love. Right, but Skip's World and Skip's World wins and pays like $100, and the guy was so pissed. He's on the phone with one of his buddies. He's like, "Can you believe this shit? A guy gives me $100 horse. He's sitting right fucking next to me, and I don't bet a dime on it." It was like the same guy that was laughing, which I don't blame him for laughing, because if you looked in the daily racing form, the past performances were not particularly flattering for Skip's World, who I remember specifically because years later, a couple of years later, I'm at Foxwoods when it had just opened up, and they had simulcasting, and I see in the program at Atlantic City Racecourse, which used to run 3 days a year, Lubie. It was either 3 or 5 days a year. There's Skip's World at 7-1, and he's in a field of just absolute pigs.
Oh, Jesus.
So I remembered his brilliance at Gulfstream Park that day. Put a few bucks on him and bailed me on for the trip. It was great. All right, we have the professor. We corrected our technological difficulties there, Professor. How are you?
I should be good.
Yes, you are good.
Sound good. Look good.
Okay. Ready to roll, sir.
Doing better this time.
All right, very good. All right, we're going to come right back, right? We never did roll these commercials.
Never took a break.
Okay, of course not.
Through the break.
I'm talking about some horse I banked 35 years ago, my last winning tip horse. The tip horses ever win, Professor? And are you obligated to give out a tip horse to your friends if you have one?
Oh, yeah. If you have it, you got to give it out to your friends.
Do you have to assess the credibility of the source?
In my experience, do they ever come in? No.
No, never. Never. Like I was telling Lubie, I think I've hit 10 tip horses lifetime.
Like 100% never.
In almost 60 years of betting horses. That's a low percentage.
That they never come in.
Again, I feel like, and we've had to discuss, this is what makes Let It Ride with Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, classic.
One of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
And really nothing encapsulates it better than the scene where he needs a winner. So he goes around to all the people at the track and then picks the one horse that none of them pick. Because he knows literally all of them are stone cold losers.
Everybody's losing their ass, right? What are we doing out there? You ask yourself, what are we doing out there?
Would not be here. You'd be doing something more productive for a living. So he goes the other way, and of course the horse runs around by itself for fun.
All right, we're going to come back with the professor. We'll have a big board for you, and I don't know. You're going to do a little overview, preview of the college football season.
I am. I thought we would talk about a few potential future things along those lines. And Sarni apparently wants tips on the Little League World Series. Tips if you're betting the Little League World Series. Find something better to do with your life. Go.
It's like disgusting. I mean,
tips on the Little League World Series. Somebody's cheating because now every team's got like.
It's like being Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, it's gross.
Yeah. Pitcher.
All right, we're going to come back with the professor, a big board, and some college football stuff. And I sent you this link. I think all you have to do, Professor, is click on the thing I emailed you, and then just type your name in, whatever it is. Are you going to go by the professor? You should, because that's how you're known on these formats. So, just type in the professor, and that's it. And I'll be able to bring you in. I hope.
Okay.
I hope.
You'll be fine.
Otherwise, we're going to have to talk about the ethics of are you obligated to give out a tip horse? And if you're a public handicapper of any type, do you need to have no conscience whatsoever? Like absolutely a Trumpian, where you'll just say anything.
No,
to get the people off your back.
Public handicapper in 2024, what you need is like a set of 36 double Ds.
Yeah.
That has become
about my fucking TikTok. You don't have TikTok, so I couldn't send you the link.
That has become the number one qualification
TikTok.
for
drinking
handicapping
martinis
at
off of them.
24
Yeah.
is
Doing the
just
walking
a
and boob
blazing
bouncing.
hot chick.
Yeah.
That's like the thing now. Like, it doesn't matter if your pics are for shit, because dudes
Who
are
wants to
just,
see some dirty old Jew from
yeah,
Brooklyn?
dudes are just there to check out your ass at this point. Because
What am I-
honestly, if you're a dude who's going on to like DraftKings or
Yeah.
FanDuel and you're betting a 10-team parlay, what handicapper is helping? You might as well just throw fucking darts at the newspaper and pick whatever 10 they land on. Because you get Jimmy the Greek out of the grave and have him speak to you through a Ouija board. Ain't nothing helping you
No.
if you're trying to make these bets every day. So,
Well, and we did do a French-English translation on the word parlay, and essentially parlay means in English, you're fucked.
there you go.
Find a way to get fucked.
So if you're going to be a handicapper, you might as well be a hot chick, because nothing's saving, the younger better these days anyway.
The average guy has no shot. Yes, exactly. All right, coming back with the professor and a big board and all of this stuff in a moment. Now that.
The time.
I think that is the literal translation. You're fucked. It's 8:40.
Here, let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
This has been great because as cold as Jersey Kyle has been with his degenerate stimulus package horses, this man has been on fire with Australian rules football to the point where people are calling him Crocodile as he joins us here on the show. The Crocodile himself, the professor, now 14-8 in documented picks on Australian rules football. Professor, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Defo. In fact, not only am I 14-8 and picking Australian rules football, I am 6-0 in Australia's favorite national game. Is this or is this not a night?
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
So what's the deal, Lubie? You've got some chick that has boobs bigger than Pamela Anderson did on Baywatch.
Not really followed her, but she's been
No.
all over his Twitter for years, and I haven't seen her for a long time. And she gives out plays. What's classic about her is she used to wear like literally nothing, and then everyone in her comments would be like, "Yeah, do more of that." And she like, "Don't objectify me," and it'd be like, "Sweetheart, you're literally naked.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? You're objectifying yourself." So I guess she's literally just really gone all in with it. And Kim was telling me yesterday that she's now on Twitter. She walks around a park making sure her chest jumps up and down a lot, but then seriously gives picks. And
I like the Steelers laying 2 in a hook over the Eagles. And if you looked a week 2, I got a lock of the century.
But then she gives picks, seriously. And the views
What does the world come to? My
getting
God.
like millions of views doing this. When before she used to get like 5,000.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, now that she's giving out games. So,
But
yeah,
again,
like you said.
it leads to a better sub question, whether we're talking about handicappers,
Yeah.
whether we're talking about giving out a tip horse to your friends. Does any of it really matter? Because does anybody listen? And you, Defo, are a great example of this. We're all a great example of this. I have been trying to convince Defo for, I don't know, however long we've known each other, 15,
probably 20 years now,
at
yeah.
this point. Will you stop betting 14 parlays?
Never, because that's where the
game
juice
by
is.
game, bet one game at a time. And, again, we go back, I want to say it was like the NCAA tournament 2 or 3 years ago, the first one coming out of COVID. Literally, I'm not doing this to pat myself on the back, but literally went 11-1 on the first day of the NCAA tournament. 11-1, monster freaking day. Gave out 2 monster money line winners. Defo calls me up. He's like, "Yeah, I put the one in every parlay I had. I lost $200." I was like, "Oh dear God!" Like that.
It's sad what I do to this. I mean, anyway,
It's
I
not
mean,
just you, it's everybody. Everybody. I've
fueled
got
by self-sabotage. You know that.
got a good friend, Rob Jones, and he loves and he's good at baseball.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, can go 3-1, 4-1 any given day. Bets $5 10-team parlays. Every time 10 teams, literally 10 teams.
Any shit can happen across 10 games. Yes,
Exactly. And baseball, like it's even worse. I mean,
baseball is very, very much a coin toss,
right?
in most circumstances. I'm afraid to bet Paul Skeens tonight at -125.
He had one the other day. It was like it wasn't his full 10. It was like maybe an 8. And the loser was the Yankees lost to the White Sox, who are the worst team in baseball history.
Yes,
like 12-2.
Exactly. They got crushed.
What are you gonna do?
The White Sox had won one of their previous 24 games. And snapped in the process that hideous, what was it, 21 or 22 game losing streak.
Very arguably the worst team in at least modern, if not Major League Baseball history.
Maybe baseball history, yeah.
Can you imagine you have an 8-team parlay and that's the one you go
you
down
lose.
on?
Yeah. I mean, and the Yankees were like overwhelming 3 or 4 to 1
like
favorites.
Literally 1 of August going in. Unbelievable.
Yeah, let's get into some college football because we won't have time for the big board as well. So,
speaking
what are you
of
looking
people
at?
who never learn, here we go. And we're going to look at a little futures here this week as we get it ready to go in week 0. I'll tell you right now, speaking of week 0, since we're talking about it, the only game really notably on the board is Lubie's Florida State Seminoles going to Georgia Tech. And interesting here because this number just keeps going down and down and down. 1 point high is 13.5. I saw it this morning, down to 11. Not sure why everybody is on Georgia Tech, except, again, kind of, I think, getting led around your nose by the media. Paul Feinbaum, kind of assaultive about the Florida State Seminoles the other day, saying he thought they'd be dehydrated because they were all out of the water from their tears at the playoffs.
Oh, my God.
You bald scumbag.
SEC piece of shit.
SEC Gary Gobel's garbage.
That fucking Alabama had that schedule
what
going.
The fuck is wrong with you?
Even that slimy commissioner wouldn't be that pumped.
Yeah, they shut the they were wrong.
Seriously, Paul Feinbaum, know what? You were the Al Jazeera.
He is.
Alabama. Like literally the terrorist who went to
it's ugly.
Who went to prison for poisoning Auburn's tree. Like called it into the Feinbaum show. You're like literally you're a terrorist network. What's wrong with you guys? And then you're just making fun of Florida State for no particular reason. When they got fucked. Unquestionably they got fucked.
No doubt, yeah.
And just awful. And I'm wondering how much that's driven by the SEC media narrative. All of a sudden everybody's on Georgia Tech balls coming into this game. Now look, if you're taking it from a standpoint of these Ireland games, the last few years have been a little wild. Underdogs have been barking. I get it. Again, it's a really tough circumstances game. It's week 0. You have to put kids on a plane, fly them 3,000 miles across an ocean, ask them to practice, I don't know, on a cricket field or whatever the hell. You might just find a cow pasture and use that to practice. Because it's not like Ireland's overrun with football stadiums.
Yeah.
So, certainly there's reasons to take Georgia Tech, double digits, tough scenario in that
first game. DJU's first game in the. I mean, they could eventually be a really good team, but as you know, look, Alabama almost lost to USF last year, early in the year. Like, it's fucking early.
Anyway, point being, tough media coverage on Florida State, and I'm wondering if that's impacting
for sure
the way this number keeps creeping down. Because I look at it talent for talent across the board. Yeah, Florida State should be a little bit higher. They should be north, like somewhere around 2 touchdowns, as opposed to a number keep going down. But anyway, Heisman Trophy. I got to tell you, I'm trying to dope this one out like I do every year, and I am more confused about this fucking award than I ever have been, and it's all because of last year. Yeah. And it's because really every unwritten rule we know about the Heisman, people like Paul Feinbaum decided to go ahead and break, and like we have to give it to an SEC player. And now I won when they gave it to Jaden Daniels, who again, I'm not trying to say Jaden Daniels didn't have a nice year, made good stats. The team was terrible and lost every big game they played.
Yes.
And let's be honest, a lot of his numbers were inflated by the fact that his defense was awful. He was thrown into the fourth quarter of a lot of ball games. I'm sitting here looking at this, and I'm trying to replay this year over in my head. How Michael Penix didn't win this award last year is just so far beyond me, and so far the rules and bounds of what we know about the award that I'm generally baffled handicapping it, because, again, has it just become an SEC? I mean, again, you know, you go back to the 60s and it was whites only, and now I'm wondering, is it SEC only in media rooms across the college football world?
It's essentially the SEC Player of the Year award.
Yes.
That's what it's
That's
become.
why when you look at last year's award, that's what it looks like it's become. Again, what do we know about the award? Your team doesn't have to win the national championship, but you have to at least be in the conversation late. You have to generally meet or exceed expectations.
Especially a quarterback.
You didn't always have to be a quarterback, but it's more likely to be a quarterback.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you're going to be a quarterback, record matters. Like,
again,
record.
My point being, Michael Penix met all of these qualifications last year. And let's give it to Jaden Daniels, again, whose team was wildly disappointing. And then to bring this all full circle, my point is, if you're looking at it, it looks like the public is reacting to this, because you look at the favorites, and it lines up very similarly to last year. Despite the fact that Penix had great stats and beat Oregon, what did people want? They wanted to give the trophy to Bo Nix until Oregon blew it late. Well, this year we're starting out. Dylan Gabriel's the favorite. Now, I like Dylan Gabriel. He's had a nice career. I don't know that he deserves to come into this season as favorite. Oregon's got a good team. Oregon's got a somewhat favorable schedule. But Dylan Gabriel's always been hurt, and let's face it, Oregon had those circumstances last year and blew a couple of games. So, again, no value there to me. Next pick in terms of favorites, Carson Beck. I don't know what Georgia's going to be. I mean, among the favorites, he works for me. But, again, Georgia playing kind of without a net this year. You look at their schedule at Alabama, at Texas, and at Ole Miss. Your three toughest games of the year are all on the road. And again, last couple of years when Bowers has missed time or missed games, their offense has not looked effective. He's gone. I don't know for a fact we know what the Georgia offense will be without him. Next favorite, Quinn Ewers. I think he's the best returning quarterback, but if you can tell me with confidence that he's going to play all 12 games last year, I don't know what the hell you're thinking about, because he is definitely in that Tua and the quarterback from Sam Bradford category. It seems like his body breaks every time he gets hit. He is not a durable guy. And, I mean, based on that Texas spring game, there's some Wally Pipp factor here. There's a dude that the NFL likes as a top 5 pick, but if he gets hurt, I'm not sure he's getting his job back. If you go back to that Texas spring game and watch the way Arch Manning played, there are a lot of people in Texas who want it to be that time now, despite the fact, again, that most teams are looking at Quinn Ewers as a top 3, top 5 NFL draft pick. So who do we like? Well, we're going to go back to the normal formulas here, which is teams that have a chance to exceed or meet their expectations. We're going to get some media during this, and who have a chance to be in the playoff hunt. So to me, I'm taking the SEC out. Again, why? All their players, even though the shaky ones, are too low of odds. Jackson Dart at 12-1, Jaden Milroe at 12-1. The craziest one to me, Garrett Nussmeier at 15-1. Now, again, I know he is a top-level high school recruit. He's played one college game, and it was in a bowl game where a bunch of people sat out. And yet, did he look impressive? He did look impressive. But LSU's got a killer schedule, and you're telling me this is a 5th pick? Sorry, that's nuts. So who are we looking at? Number 1, unfortunately, getting the information to you a little later than we should have, but it would be Avery Johnson out of Kansas State, currently sitting at 25-1. If you watch this kid play at the end of last year, there's a very heavy Trevor Lawrence vibe with this.
Yeah.
He's
All right.
gigantic, even though he's like kind of long limbed, so he looks skinnier than he is. Got a big flowing mane of red hair, huge arm. Looking at him, you would think this is the least athletic human being on any football field. He is much like Trevor Lawrence. He is shockingly athletic.
Yep.
And Kansas State is probably going to be favored in every football game on their schedule until they get into the Big 12 title game. Assuming they get to the Big 12 title game, only time they wouldn't be favored in the game. So we'll be in playoff contention, and again, exceeding expectations. Another guy just to look at in the Big 12. And again, I'm not sure how much I buy into this team. They're getting a fair amount of preseason hype. That's Oklahoma State at number 15. Well, I'll tell you, if Oklahoma State lives up to that, Ollie Gordon will be the reason, the running back, and he is 70-1 to win the Heisman. Now, a lot of reasons on that, including the fact a running back hasn't won the Heisman since Derrick Henry. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But Gordon led the nation in rushing last year. No reason to think he won't lead it again this year. And again, Oklahoma State getting a little bit more attention in the Big 12. Obviously, without Texas and Oklahoma, a much easier conference to win.
Yep.
Again, somebody to look at. Hate saying this one. I feel bad saying this one. Lubie's going to hate me.
It's Hunter or Sanders. Yeah.
It's Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Again, and part of that is we learned last year, the expectations for Colorado, the bar has gotten set so weirdly low that for Shedeur Sanders to meet or better them, literally seven wins at a bowl game? If they just if they get to the freaking Poulon Weed Eater Bowl, the media and I'm not just talking about little media. I'm talking about national media. I'm talking about Fox, who put them on in prime time at every opportunity last year, is going to hype the hell out of Colorado because Colorado is the future of that television contract. We know Shedeur is going to throw the ball 50 times a game. We know he's going to put up numbers, particularly against the bad teams. And I don't think Colorado was going to a bowl game. I think Colorado may struggle to get to the 5 wins they got to last year.
Yep.
But and he's sitting at 30-1, and we know the numbers are going to be there. And if they're good at all, we know the media is going to be there. So that some guys, and then the final one, and I can't believe I'm saying this one because I think he might even be older than Chris Winkie, but I think you got to look at Cam Rising at Utah.
Oh, Rising.
Guy.
Yeah, Rising.
Look at their regular season schedule. They're basically going to be favored in every game they play. He's been very productive. And again, it's a good narrative for the story, and he's very engaging personality. So sitting there at 35-1, again, a guy I think you got to take. Some people are also going to want to look at the ACC. I think Cam Ward has been bet down too much. And I will tell you, in every futures aspect, whether it be national title, be it ACC title, be it Heisman Trophy, as a Miami fan, this Hurricanes team scares the ever-loving shit out of me because for the last 20 years, every time I've had any good positive thoughts, it immediately blows up right in my face. And I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at this roster. I'm looking at the schedule. I actually think Miami's going to be good, and that scares the hell out of me because I don't think I'm assuming they're going to be a huge letdown. So the DJU, another one at 35-1. He's a little intriguing. I'm not going to lie.
We'll see.
Again, Norvell, can he move the needle on a quarterback? Maybe. Again, he did it with Jordan Travis, but it was like a 4-year project. I don't know that he can fix what's wrong with DJ Uiagalelei in 1 year.
Yeah.
Tough pick for me. And then the last one, if you have to take a favorite, if you have to take one of the SEC guys, who would I bet on? Boy, I hate to say it, but I would bet on Kalen DeBoer being able to
Milroe. I was going to say
Jaden Milroe, sitting there at 12-1. I actually think both national title and Heisman trophies, Alabama's kind of fairly underrated for the first time in about 15 years. I think people who aren't big college football fans really don't understand just how good Kalen DeBoer is as a coach. And I'm kind of getting this vibe when you look at when Jalen Hurts went to Oklahoma after 3 years as a running quarterback who didn't look like he could throw it all to Alabama, got with a West Coast guru with Lincoln Riley, and all of a sudden made his own Heisman push. Don't be totally shocked if the same thing happens with Milroe at Alabama. You look at DeBoer going back to his days as an offensive coordinator at Eastern Illinois. He's gotten like 6 guys in the NFL camps who really have no business being on a roster. He's a guy who really does. Again, Penix was less of a talent issue and more of an injury and consistency issue. But look what he's done with Penix the last 2 years. And again, Milroe, fairly hyped coming in the year. I personally don't love him at 12-1, but if you're betting a favorite, you're betting an SEC guy, that's the one to pick. So let's talk real briefly about national championship. It's the same scenario.
We may have blown out the big board, though, in the process here.
That's
Due
fine.
to
The
television.
big board's not great this week anyway.
Okay, all right. Save that one for next week then. National championship.
Let's talk about national championships real quick here. Again, what's his name? Brett McMurphy's pointed out on Twitter a couple times this week. 21 of the last 23 national championships have come from teams who started the season top 7 or higher preseason. I believe one of the 2 was Florida State back in Jameis year 2013.
Yeah.
I think started at like 10. They're one of the 2 who blew that curve. But otherwise, tells you your top 7. Who looks realistic in that top 7? 2 questions here. Number 1, who can actually get into the playoff? And that's mostly schedule. And number 2, who do you think can win 3 or 4 playoff games? Because it's now an extended playoff. Again, tough read here. If I'm going among those top 7s, I'm looking at Alabama at 12-1. Bring back the quarterback.
No Nick.
Transfer center, who was arguably the best center in the country as a freshman for Washington last year, came over with DeBoer. True, no Nick, but are replacing him with one of the best coaches in the country. I can't remember what DeBoer's record, but something like 108-14 career.
Yes.
Like, I mean, the guy is a fantastic coach. And again, only 4 starters returning on defense. But do you really doubt that the depth of talent is there that Saban has recruited accumulated over the last 4 years at Alabama? I think at 12-1, when you look at the rest of the board, you're getting a bargain there. Georgia, we just talked about, less than 3-1 now. Again, road games: Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I could see Georgia losing 2 of those 3 games really easily, and then you mix in an SEC title game loss.
Yeah.
Very easily. Georgia, a team like last year, could be the best team in the country and still miss the playoffs anyway. Ohio State, plus 380, second pick. I think Ohio State's probably winning the Big Ten this year, but I will tell you, how can you bank on Ryan Day as a big game coach? Like, every big game this guy has backed. He's, I mean, like 2-7, 2-8. You go back to that loss a few years ago to start the season at Oregon, where he got chopped up by the Ducks in his own stadium. The last 2 years to Michigan, the playoff loss where the game was on the freaking table and you let Georgia snatch it out of your mouth in the 4th quarter. Like, this guy, as far as I can tell you, is an awful big game coach. And the funny thing is, he's kind of the opposite of what you got used to at Ohio State in the last years of Urban, where they would be great in all the big games and they would lose randomly to Purdue by 5 touchdowns somehow.
Yeah.
Day doesn't ever seem to stub his toe against bad teams. He seems to win literally all of those, but he seems to be really bad in the big games. He reminds me of Bob Stoops in the last decade or so at Oklahoma. The joking big game Bob reference, where again, never lost to a bad team ever, but can't seem to win the big games ever. If you're telling me you have confidence in Ryan Day to win 3 big games in a row in a playoff, I don't know what you're smoking, brother. Oregon, again, we're starting to get into the area plus 700, where I could maybe see taking them, but new conference, different level of intensity. And again, historically not a team great in big games over the years. Texas, plus 800. I happen to think Texas is, man for man,
It's Texas.
probably as talented, if not the most talented team in the country. But again, Quinn Ewers gets hurt every year. So I can make a case for it, but not necessarily. All the Big 12 teams we talked about, I think all of them can get into a playoff. If you look at schedule, can any of them win 3 games in a row? Well, I'm going to say, I think in terms of value, Utah maybe can. When you look at the way Kyle Whittingham has built that program over the years, always stacked on both sides of the line, particularly the defensive sideline, bringing back his quarterback, Cam Rising, and sitting at 60-1, I will tell you, I think Utah probably worth a very small shot to win the national title with a 60-1 price.
Ooh.
Ping pong it back over to the ACC. Again, problem with the ACC this year, 3 teams that they're not getting multiple teams. They're getting one team in as a league. Florida State, Clemson, Miami. You tell me which one's winning the league, because I think they're all about exactly the same. Do I think any of them can win 3 playoff games in a row? Not really. I think all of them could win a playoff game, maybe even 2 playoff games. Do I think that any of them can win the 3 of them in a row? Boy, that would be a tough order for any of these. I will tell you, I think Miami, particularly because the defensive line is just so stacked, Miami very legitimately, by the end of the year, might have the best defensive line in the country. It is that level of talent. But, I mean, 3 playoff games when you're not used to that level of competition, basically in back-to-back-to-back weeks. I think the last one you get 10 days off as opposed to a week. It's a tall order, so it would be very difficult to me. I hate to agree with Brett McMurphy, but I kind of do agree with Brett McMurphy. It's probably coming from one of those top 7 because of the new playoff format, because, again, running that gauntlet at the end of the year is going to get really difficult. So depth of talent, decent price. Give me the Tide plus 1,200.
Alabama.
Roll Kate in the board.
We know they don't get any favorable treatment from the pollsters or any of the people that are involved in the playoffs.
Although I will say at plus 800 if you want to bet the favorite, Texas.
I think Texas
has the talent to be worth a shot.
Yeah, Texas.
All right. We're gonna run now. Punching about 9:17. 9:17.
I love that you do it that exact. It's literally 9:17.
If you don't,
9:17. Well, it kind of is. Yeah, I mean that's the way that works, because that gives me time to figure out if I can't bring you up that we might be able to get you in before the end of the show. As I'm sitting there going, what the fuck?
Tune in for Defo's broadcast at 9:32 to 9:48. Exactly.
Hey, you got to be specific. That's this business is all about time. You know that. All right. Speaking of time, we've done enough. And Professor, thank you very much for joining us there. We didn't get to the big board, but he said it wasn't necessarily one of his favorites. So that's the way it went, man. He went nuts on that college football, right? It was about a 20-minute dissertation there, just straight through. It's great, man. Nobody better on college football than the professor. So, yeah, I mean, for the professor to recommend Alabama, that really, I mean, you're talking about not betting with your heart. I would imagine, I don't know if the departure of Nick Saban has softened people's opinion about rooting for Alabama. I still root for them to lose every game that I watch.
100%.
Yeah. And I'll come to despise the head coach from Washington who replaced Saban, who seemed like an extremely likable guy.
Yeah, he's a good coach. I mean, that's the thing is they have all that talent and they still have a good coach, but he isn't Saban. So I'm curious how that works.
All right, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, the players had to fear Saban. I mean, do you think that we'll find out that Saban was actually beating players or subjecting them to physical abuse if they fucked up a play? I don't know.
That would be shocking.
Yeah. I mean, if he had some Bobby Knight in him, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I doubt he was coddling his quarterbacks after they threw a pick. All right, Lubie, we'll see you later on to Gulfstream Park. The tip horse there is Dancing Magic. That's Colonial Downs. That's going to go off about 5 o'clock. So
okay.
You'll have to stick around. You got plenty of time to get down on that and see your money go up in smoke. All right, thanks, people, for tuning in. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:07.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they brought.